There we go. Do I need to start over for the tape? Anyway, good afternoon, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held on August 25th at 5 p.m. in the main meeting room of the Princeton Municipal Building at 400 Witherspoon Street. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice and time and place of this meeting has been noticed by transmitting a copy of the agenda to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times of Trenton, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton, posting on the municipal website in the Agenda Center, and posting on the official bulletin board at the Princeton Municipal Complex here at 400 Witherspoon Street. Sarah, could we please take the roll?
Ms. Satterfield is joining from Zoom. Can I get a here?
Here.
Adam will fix that echo, but thank you. Mr. Shatskin is absent. Ms. Howard?
Here.
Ms. Capizoli?
Here.
Ms. Friedman is absent. Ms. Kroll is absent. Ms. Kozevnikova is absent. Chair Scher.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you very much. So we usually start our meeting with any announcements?
The design guidelines public comment period ended yesterday. I am reviewing them, compiling them, and we should get any major updates to the guidelines review committee and our consultant for any changes shortly, and there will be a presentation to council on September 14th for the...
Very interesting. Do you have a sense of how many people submitted comments?
We definitely had more sort of conversations at the public presentation than submitted them in writing, I would say.
Right, and for the audience, you and I both wrote up the
Yes.
to be in the list of things that will be considered when you're going over all of it. And my understanding is what happens next, and Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the committee who worked with the consultant on this for about a year will be called to reconvene and to go over the comments and to then give feedback to the consultant about where we go, how we tie this up and get the product done and ready for final distribution and use. Did you something we're going to add, or?
I'm going to summarize the comments and send them out to everybody to see if we need to meet again, if there's any major outstanding items we need to discuss and revise, or if there are things we have identified that can be discussed for future projects, and maybe something we don't need to revise now. And it's kind of up to us as the committee.
Very good. All right. Normally we review the minutes next.
Yes.
Has everyone had a chance to look at them, and is there any input or comment?
I think the minutes look fine, and I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, Sarah, when you're ready.
Roll call. Ms. Satterfield?
Yes.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Capizoli?
Yes.
Chair Scher.
Yes.
Minutes have passed.
Was Ms. Satterfield at the last meeting?
She read them.
Okay,
Did you miss them?
awesome, thanks.
Okay. So we will move to the applications. First off is 61 Lee Avenue, if you want to come up and sit at the table. Hey, Leighton. Joining us is our liaison, Leighton Newland. Okay, you want to get them established?
Okay, will you both be testifying or discussing the application? Okay, so I'm sorry?
Press the button.
Okay. All right, well, I can swear you both in, and if she wants to testify, then I can swear her in as well. So, if you-
And will Jiva be giving testimony? Or is it just you?
Yes, let's say yes.
Yes, so
Okay.
can you wait a second?
I can wait
'Cause-
too. Yeah.
Thank you.
For those of you in the audience, we are excited that our, later down in the agenda, you'll see that we're going to get a courtesy review from the people associated with the Princeton Battlefield Park on the progress of what's being done there, and we hope that people will stick around if they can.
Yes. Nice to meet you.
Can you hear me? Just tell Cecilia that I can't come today. Don't tell her I'm at a meeting. And tell her that I do want to participate, and I'll be at the next meeting. Thanks a lot.
Right, so I'm just going to give her a few. And then you guys will say something. It's optional, you don't have to. Yeah, and they're going to want to swear us in.
I can swear you all in at this time, in case you guys testify, and for Max as well. So if you could all please raise your right hands, I can do it simultaneously. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Okay, so then I guess we'll have you each say your names as you speak. So, okay.
Good afternoon, or good evening, early evening. Max Hayden, I'm the architect for the applicant. Jiva and Mita live at 61 Lee Avenue in the Witherspoon-Jackson neighborhood. They have a 1910 era house. It's one of several in a cluster nearby. They would like to extend their porch to the right-hand side of the house, wrapping it back to the L to gain much-needed space. They have the most adorable little set of twins I ever saw, and they have less adorable teenagers. And so there are 6 people living in a relatively modest house, and the porch addition will have an extension of the front porch, but it will also include a much-needed mudroom and bathroom for the first floor. At the rear of the house, we are extending a porch over an existing set of stairs. The stairs will actually be replaced, but they lead from the kitchen to the garden, and we really want to cover them over to protect them and replace the 1950s era concrete steps with something more sympathetic to the architecture of the house. So we're really trying to make it look as if this is how the house was built. We're also asking for permission to erect a fence to separate the parking, the existing parking from the garden. They're avid gardeners. They have some chickens. They really love hanging out in their yard. They have a double lot, and they'd like to, have a little bit of privacy. They are going to match all the existing finishes. The color of the trim will stay the same. The color of the windows will stay the same. We are. Go ahead.
With one exception, Jiva Petrin, I'm one of the owners. The prior owners painted some of the windows pink and some maybe 5 different shades of green, so our proposal includes matching what seems the most historical part, which was the soffit, was a sage's green, and so our proposal includes making all the windows the same shade.
And we might be changing the stucco color.
And the stucco is in very poor shape, and we need to patch it in multiple areas. So the plan is to, the most original stucco color was a very bright coral pink, and then it's gone through multiple iterations of various paints all over it. And so we would propose to bring it to like a beigeish, lightish pink, like a sandstone color, like a white, off-white. I don't know how to describe that. Just not the bright coral that it was.
We also, the applicant also is required to get a variance because the porch exceeds the prevailing setback, and the zoning code takes 500 feet along one side, which is kind of funny, I will call it, because the cluster of houses that this house is similar to all have the same porch and the same setback to the street. So it's a little onerous on the owner, but that's the next step for us. But we're hoping that the Historic Commission will deem this an appropriate application and would welcome any questions you might have.
I'll briefly go through the main points. As the applicants and Max has said, the applicants have filed an application for historic preservation plan review, as well as an application toward the Zoning Board of Adjustment for C variances related to the restoration and extension of the existing front porch, the construction of a one-story addition on the east side elevation of the dwelling, as well as landscape and hardscape changes to 61 Lee Avenue. The site is identified as 6904, lots 23 and 24 on the Princeton tax map. It is in Princeton Historic Overlay in Witherspoon Jackson Historic District as a Type 2 district, which is defined per T10B2, is subject to preservation plan review for any changes visible from the public right-of-way. 61 Lee Avenue is a circa 1915, 2.5-story L-shaped wood frame vernacular building clad in stucco with some colonial and folk revival influences. Based on the historic Sanborn maps, the building largely retains the same footprint since its original construction. This includes the full-width front porch, the 2-story L on the east side elevation, as well as the 1-story shed roof rear addition. The proposed scope of work includes the restoration of the existing front porch in kind. That is not, that's a blank page. The restoration of the existing masonry stoop with a wood stoop and railing, as well as the extension of the front roof around the east elevation, connecting and closing the east side elevation and south front elevation of the main block and L respectively. The enclosure will eliminate the existing stoop entrance to the L, creating a 1-story addition. The east elevation of the addition will feature 2 new wood windows with custom lintels, sills, casing, and trim to match the existing windows. The applicant also proposes to add a new bluestone walkway to replace the existing brick walkway, a 6-foot-tall cedar fence to the rear yard, and a shed roof extension to the existing 1-story shed roof rear addition. There were also additional landscaping changes proposed for the rear yard that will not be visible from the public right-of-way, with the installation of the new fence. The proposed scope of work appears to largely retain the historic fabric and character-defining features of the property. The proposed one-story addition on the east elevation of the front facade will alter the building's overall massing, but the form will remain evident. Similarly sized and placed additions have been made to a number of dwellings along Lee Avenue, including 64, 66, and 87 Lee, although these additions appear to have been construction prior to local designation of the historic district. The additions appear to be compatible with the existing size, scale, and proportion and massing of the houses along Lee and within the larger Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District. Therefore, the proposed addition at 61 Lee Avenue appears to be consistent with the existing paradigm of the block and falls within the vernacular traditions of the neighborhood. The fence provided in the concept plans appears to match existing fencing found throughout the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District as a wood fence with the lattice top. In addition, the bluestone walkway and the proposed rear roof addition appears to have minimal impact on the building or the surrounding districts. This is an application for development, so the HPC is a referral to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. As a contributing resource to the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District, staff recommends that the commission consider whether the project as proposed generally retains the building's historic integrity, spaces, and spatial relationships, as well as the overall historic character of the property. In addition, staff recommends that the commission consider the following while conducting their historic preservation plan review and subsequent recommendation to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, whether the proposed project meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, whether the proposed project is appropriate to and compatible with the existing structures and landscape of the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District, whether the proposed project would adversely affect the ambiance, character, and appearance of the district, whether the proposed project preserves or enhances the historic or architectural value of the structure, whether the proposed project would adversely affect the exterior architectural features and setting of the structure, as well as its historic and architectural character, whether the modifications proposed to the existing dwelling that are beneficial to contemporary living, including the construction of the new one-story addition, are consistent with the architectural design and character of the structure and the larger district, whether the proposed addition is visually compatible with the structure and places within the district, whether the proposed addition acts as a backdrop to and does not visually intrude upon the structures and places within the district, whether the height of the addition is visually compatible with the structures within the district, whether the relationship of the width and the height of the addition is visually compatible with the structures and places within the district, whether the relationship of the proposed addition to the open space between it and adjoining structures is visually compatible, whether the roof shape of the proposed addition is visually compatible with structures within the immediate setting, and whether the size, massing, and windows on the proposed addition is visually compatible, and whether the fencing proposed is appropriate for the historic preservation district and the principal structure on the lot.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I can see part of the drawing up here that you guys can't see on the screen there. I had one question about it, but I would ask the commission members if they want to make some comments before I go.
I will.
Okay, go ahead, Julie.
I agree entirely. This seems to be very consistent with the neighborhood, and that the owners have shown themselves to be very wonderful stewards of the property. So I think it fits in beautifully with the neighborhood context.
I just needed some clarification on the fence. Have a picture of the fence.
The fencing will be cedar. There's a lattice on top of it to break down the scale of it, because it is a 6-foot-tall fence. And, there is a gate allowing access from the parking to the rear yard,
Just on the second
and it connects to the shed.
What is the existing fence? I think it's wrought iron, isn't it?
What is the one?
There's an existing fence there?
No, there is no
there
fence,
isn't.
no.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know if it helps, but the plan is to, in front of the fence, plant a rain garden to capture some of the rainwater there. So the plan is that really there will be a little bit of plantings there, also hiding the fence from view. I don't know if that helps explain, but it won't be like the first thing you see.
Shirley, do you have any comments you want to add?
Yes, I agree with the commission. I don't agree with extending the porch. And the reason that it's pink and green is probably because it's festive with the family who was there before. I agreed to changing it all to a green, but I wanted to stay the way it is and just do the fixer-uppers and not extend the porch.
Okay, thank you. My question, and it's going to be a little bit hard to do without graphics, I'm going to ask Max if he can kind of, with words, work with me. The gable over the entrance currently, how does that relate to the gable that I guess is going to be in about the same place, but the porch being brought out, the gable now looks like it's in the middle of the porch roof, and it looks like it's at a different pitch.
No, I mean, it's meant, the gable's staying there. The gable's not moving.
Oh, that gable and those
Yeah,
precise angles are
yeah.
staying there. Then it's
Yeah.
just my eyes,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, we're just truly extending to the right, and it will be an open porch, and then the addition is from the wall of the house back where it's enclosed. And, you know, the whole thought was to make it look as if it was at one point kind of a wraparound porch that, yes, they then enclosed, which I don't think is out of character with the rest of the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And it gives them very much needed space.
Okay, then I guess that now that I understand that that gable is not changing, it's just that its position just looks different when you have extended the,
It might
Roof.
be, I may have drawn it not accurately, but truly, we're not changing the gable.
okay.
My hope is that we can actually keep the roof. The moldings are all rotten, and everything is covered in lead paint. I have 2-year-old toddlers, and so part of this is abatement of any
Right.
possible lead. But we are hoping actually to preserve the gable as it is, as well as the existing roof, and just really replacing the moldings and everything else. So really kind of doing very little to any of that. We're not touching the balusters. We're keeping the original spindles. The porch really should not look noticeably different to people who have known it before, except for that it extends just a little bit further out. It should really be as much original as possible.
And also, I think that, you know, as I understand it now, looking at it, you would still be able to understand what had been there all along and what's being changed without standing out as a change. You can kind of pick up that where things looked originally. So that makes me more comfortable.
There is a side entry door in the L now with another set of steps. There are 3 entrances into the house. We're really kind of making a front door and a back door and trying to codify it a little bit.
Are there members of the public who wanted to speak about this application? Okay. Notwithstanding that Shirley has a different view on this porch, is anyone wanting to put forth a motion about what we'd like to do?
I'll put forward a motion to accept the application as presented.
Second?
A second.
Okay. Let's go ahead and have a roll call on that, please, on that motion.
Ms. Satterfield? Ooh, Shirley.
Oh, I already made my decision. Yes,
Yes to the motion?
yes.
Okay. Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Capizoli?
Yes.
Chair Scher?
Yes,
Okay, the motion is passed.
Thank you very much.
thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, would the application for 30 Lytle like to take the table? I'm going to just mention one thing, is these microphones are kind of sensitive, so when you talk, just lean into them.
Sounds good.
If you could both raise your, are you both going to be speaking?
Yes.
Okay, if you could both raise your right hands. Okay, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and then if you could state your full names for the record.
Sure.
Luke Hermer.
Anissa Tavangar.
Okay.
So, go ahead and tell us about your project. Let's get it up on the screen if we can.
Do you want to start? You want to wait for it to be on the screen?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. So we bought this house about a year ago, and when we bought it, it had a like dilapidated garage on it that was buy as is, and so when we moved in, we were like, we want to refurbish this and change it. We had architect come, Ronald Berlin, whose letter is in the testimony, and then same thing with builder
Abel
Abel
Smith.
Smith, who does a lot of work in the neighborhood, lives in the neighborhood. And they both were basically like, yeah, this has to be demolished and torn down. So then we were evaluating other options and basically noticed that a lot of the houses in the neighborhood don't have garages. And so we were like, okay, well, maybe we don't need one. It would be really expensive to completely redo everything about the garage. So we applied for a building permit to get the garage, to demolish the garage, and we received the permit. And so then we demolished the garage. And then when we decided we wanted to just do a small patio off the back and put a fence in and put in like a little prefab shed for storage. We applied to do so and were informed that, we needed to get approval from the historic district in order to do that. And then, retroactively sort of applied for demolition of the garage, including informing our neighbors and publishing stuff in the newspaper
Yeah.
and whatnot.
And-
So the proposed changes would be, it's like a small, like bluestone patio.
Paver.
With
patio.
pavers. It's a cedar wood fence, and the shed is like just a prefab, like Quaker shed.
Amish shed, yeah.
Not Quaker, my
Also,
bad.
I will mention too, regarding the building permit we received for the demolition, that was an instance of going to the municipal office window and, ringing the bell or whatever it is and just saying, hey, we don't know what's going on, but we need a permit. And we weren't directed to speak with Sarah or the Historic Preservation Commission. So that's how that process went forward without doing this first.
Thank you. Sarah, do you want to tell us about?
Sure. I'm going to kind of largely read this one in full because it's a little more complex, so apologize for my garbled length. The applicants, Anicia and Luke, have filed an application for historic preservation plan review related to the replacement of the existing wood fence with the cedar fence at 30 Lytle Street. The scope of work also includes items that are not visible from the public right-of-way, such as the installation of a prefabricated shed and the installation of a bluestone patio in the rear yard. The site is identified as Block 1501, Lot 17 on the Princeton tax map and is located in the R4B zone within the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District. The property is designated on Princeton's Historic Overlay District as a Type 2, which is defined per T10B2, is subject to preservation plan review for any changes visible from the public right-of-way. In addition, in the application description, the applicant noted that they had applied for a building permit to demolish and remove the detached garage, concrete slab, and a portion of the existing driveway on May 5th, 2026. A building permit was granted on May 6, 2026 for the demolition of a one-story wood frame garage listed as a shed. However, no prior historic preservation plan review application was filed for the demolition of the garage or the hardscape changes to the side and rear yards. Once staff learned about the demolition of the garage and the demolition, staff followed up with the building department to let them know that exterior changes within a historic preservation zoning district, including but not limited to the demolition and removal of any structure subject to historic preservation plan review, and should be referred to the Office of Historic Preservation immediately. It appears that the building department believed that the removal of such a small structure, such as a shed, would not require HBC review and did not refer the application to the Historic Preservation Officer. In early discussions with the applicant, it appeared the applicant largely assumed the same or was unaware regarding the garage, and staff instructed them on the required application, noticing under T10B 378 and T10B 390. Although the garage has been demolished, the commission should consider if it met the criteria outlined under T10B 390, including whether or not the garage could not have been put to a reasonable use, and its preservation would have and whether or not its preservation would have imposed a financial hardship on the applicant. The property is in the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District, as shown on municipal overlay zoning map of historic districts and buffer districts, on the south side of Lytle Street, east of the intersection of John and Lytle Streets. The Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District is primarily a residential district unique in Princeton, with a period of significance that reflects the development of one of the earliest African-American communities in New Jersey from 1830 to 1969. The district's cultural significance is represented through the built environment that developed over time in simple vernacular styles due to economic disparity, displacement, and discrimination. 30 Lytle Street is a two-story wood-framed vernacular dwelling constructed circa 1900, along with its neighbor, 32 Lytle Street, originally 28 and 30 Lytle respectively. The former garage, located southwest of the dwelling in the rear yard, was a one-story frame building clad in stucco with an asphalt shingle gable roof and an asphalt shingle half-hipped roof extension over the north front elevation, which featured vertical board sliding doors. Historic Sanborn maps indicate that the garage was constructed circa 1925. The construction of the detached garages or similarly sized outbuildings was not uncommon in the Witherspoon-Jackson neighborhood between 1918 and 1927. Most of this development appears to have been concentrated along the north section of the neighborhood as parcels along Lee and Birch were laid out and were later accelerated by the construction of Palmer Square. However, the central cross streets of the district also saw the construction of these outbuildings, including those on Lytle, McLean, Quarry, and Green, with a few appearing along John Street as well. While it's difficult to confirm if they were all constructed specifically as garages, historic photos from the Historical Society of Princeton show the presence of cars throughout the neighborhood as widespread car ownership expanded nationally in the 1920s. For communities like Witherspoon-Jackson, car ownership also provided a level of freedom to travel beyond their walkable neighborhood. This is reflected in the annual Negro Motorist Guidebook, also known as the Green Book, a travel guide for African Americans during the Jim Crow era that included advertisements for 4 Princeton businesses within the Witherspoon-Jackson neighborhood. Cars also provided additional employment opportunities beyond those at Princeton University or within the manors, especially at after the Princeton Fast Line trolley that ran along Witherspoon Street was shut down in 1930. While the garage at 30 Lytle Street appeared to be utilitarian in design with little to no architectural ornamentation compared to other garages from the period, its significance is marked by the development it represented. The Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District is first and foremost a historic district designated for its cultural significance. This significance is reflected in the built environment of not just vernacular residences, but also outbuildings and garages that survive from earlier periods. for a community facing racial discrimination, segregation, and limited employment opportunities. The freedoms provided by car ownership in the early 20th century were not insignificant. This importance is reflected in the increased development of rear outbuildings and garages between 1918 and 1927. Based on current aerials, few of these outbuildings remain extant, with the majority still concentrated along Lee and Birch. Additionally, staff can only find one similarly designed extant garage to 30 Lytle on McLean, although it is a smaller version. The integrity of a cultural historic district like Witherspoon-Jackson is largely reflected in the cohesive setting and building density of the neighborhood. While a small shed or garage may not be architecturally significant, it can reflect the unique history, development, and character of the surrounding area. This application represents an after-the-fact demolition review that did obtain building permits in addition to the proposed improvements after the demolition of the garage. In addition to reviewing the appropriateness of the replacement fence, staff recommends that the commission consider the following while conducting their historic preservation plan review: whether the demolition of the garage met this criteria outlined under 10B 390, including whether or not the garage could not have been put to a reasonable use and whether its preservation would have imposed a financial hardship on the applicant, whether the proposed project would adversely affect the exterior architectural features and setting of the property, as well as its historic and architectural character, whether the proposed project preserves or enhances the historic or architectural value of the character of the property, whether the proposed project is appropriate to and compatible with the existing structures and landscape of the district, whether the proposed fencing is appropriate for the historic preservation district and the dwelling on the property, whether the proposed fencing would change the open streetscape or obstruct the view of these nearby structures.
Thank you. My first item here, well, let me first find out if there's any comment from anybody in the public first on this project. Okay. I guess the first thing I'm going to ask Sarah or Lisa is, what is the action that's before us tonight on this? What are we looking for?
I was going to say, I think the board is just determining whether or not it would have approved the demolition. I don't think the board has the legal authority to, the board has the legal authority to make factual findings, but the board wouldn't, for instance, if the board said this was wrongful, cannot order to, the building be rebuilt or anything like that. It's just more for purposes of setting forth a record about and making findings about what is in the board's purview, which is whether or not it would have approved demolition.
Thank you.
Does that help? Sarah, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that's where you're reviewing the application they submitted of the fence and the other changes to the backyard, which aren't really visible, so it's not really within our jurisdiction. And then an after-the-fact review of the demolition of the garage.
Yep.
There's no recourse, but on the record of whether or not we would have, whether it would have been approved.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
I'm wondering, Sarah, we got it late, if the statement from Abel Smith was also given to the board?
It was uploaded to all the
It was?
the
Okay,
documents.
good. I just want to make sure that you have both documents, because they talk about they address the guidelines for demolition, both Abel Smith and Ron Berlin.
Right. Frida.
I have a question for Lisa, really. How does the fact that they received zoning approval, how does that affect us?
Well, I think it definitely impacts impacts what happened. You can't ignore that they had gotten building approval. So you can definitely consider that. This is a very unique situation. But I would also, look at the historic preservation standards, because I think it's important just publicly also, not just for, one application, but just in general, so people understand, the demolition standards, to go through those standards and to review it here, just to make a public record, but at the same time, I think it is reasonable to consider the fact that the building department issued approval. I definitely think that that is a reasonable consideration.
I'll make a comment. I do think that it's remiss of the building department to just casually allow for a demolition in a historic district. I think that's beyond their ability to approve. On the other hand, this building is in terrible shape, and it's not really significant as far as its architectural style. So I think we're, in some ways, just lucky. So I do think we would have allowed the demolition of this, but I don't think it was right for the building department to say, okay. I think we should have been able to at least have Sarah look at it. So, but given the fact that this all happened, I'm comfortable moving on, with the whole thing.
Shirley, do you have some comments to add? Okay, well, she may be thinking about it some. I will tell you my thoughts, what I think are consistent with what we're hearing overall this evening. And, this is from a historic preservation point of view and what's happening on a property and a historic resource, regardless of its condition. I think that the point that Sarah brings up, we think it's not a high-style building. It's a part of the complete package of what was going on in that neighborhood, which is significant. But moving on from there, I think that a unfortunate series of actions took place. The building is gone. But I think this is, as I think everybody's saying, an opportunity for all the parties, and I mean the municipal parties, property owners, but also some of the contractors who are familiar with this area and familiar with this town, also to have kind of guided you or misguided you. I kind of like this to be, as far as the record goes, anyone who reads our minutes, that this is a situation that we'd like not to see happen, or if it's going to happen and that's still the same result we come up with, at least we've done our process on it. And I think that's the most we can ask for. But I think if we can also kind of reverberate from here that that the departments and the people that are in charge of giving permission need to be aware. And to that, actually, and we don't need to get into these details, but I understand that notice of what properties are within districts sometimes is lost, that property owners don't always realize that, and that's something that's on our long-term plan. It's in our design guideline review. This is something that we want to try and be more aware of and try to work on more proactively. And there we are. Actually, thank you for coming in. Thank you for your honest description of what happened. And Leighton wants to make a comment.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment. First, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I live in the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood, but I would be remiss if I didn't comment on the following. Over the past year and a half, we've been working with a very talented consultant named Dominique Wilkins, who is putting together, Hawkins, who's putting together a navigational tool that goes over every single historic district in Princeton, so that people who move into Princeton, in particular in a historic district, know that they are in a historic district. My point is that Witherspoon Jackson may not be Mercer Hill, Hodge Road, Constitution Hill. It's not gaudy. It's the word vernacular means it's kind of helter-skelter, so it would be easy to know that you had moved into a very regular house in the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood, and it's not a historic district. But the truth is that neighborhood arguably has greater history than any neighborhood in this town. And I and others worked on this being a historic district. It's Princeton's 20th historic district, and I got to tell you, it did not come easy. It was a all-out struggle because there were many people that thought it wouldn't make the historic district designation because of houses like the one you bought. But here's the real story. There's more history in that house. The Trotmans lived there. Mary Trotman, Mr. and Mrs. Trotman, Marv Trotman was a great basketball player at Princeton High School. He grew up in that house. That house is loaded with history. So my last point in bringing this to a close is that I think that we sometimes lose sight of what's valuable architecturally because it's not pretty. It may not make that much sense. But you do live in a hell of a historic district. And I hope that, and it's not the first time, but to be honest, these sort of things don't happen anywhere else but in our neighborhood. And we got to stop that. You didn't make the mistake. We made the mistake. And we got to correct that because that cost us. That raggedy-ass shack in the back of your house was something really important to a lot of people. And under different circumstances, we'd have made you renovate that damn shack. And you would have brought it back to the way it used to be. That's what kills me in this whole conversation. I'm not mad at you. I'm just tremendously disappointed and sad that we lost that little raggedy shack. Because that's the kind of thing like people rebuild their lives when they get shattered. That's what historic designation is. You rebuild shacks when they lose their integrity. So I hate to wax poetic and take longer than I should have, but it was important that I shared this with you. And I hope everybody here was paying attention and everybody online was paying attention. And I hope somebody covered this that's in the local newspapers and lets people know what I said here today. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Councilman Newland, for offering that testimony. I think it's really, really important, and I agree. You know, we tried as best as we could to go through proper channels, and even bringing in Mr. Berlin and Mr. Smith to come and look at the property was because we know they have a real reverence for the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood and the historic district. And it wasn't an accident that those were the two people that we consulted about this. But also I agree with everything you said. And we want to also be reverent and responsible members of this neighborhood and this community.
We are happy that you're here. Welcome again to the neighborhood. We got some work to do. Let's go. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Porch Fest, 9/26 is going to be happening in the neighborhood.
Thank you, everybody, for these comments. I think they're very meaningful. Back to the application, I guess the other parts of it, the patio and stuff, aren't really under our purview, so we're not really looking at an application for that?
Yes, so the prefab shed and the patio would ultimately fall out of the view of the public right-of-way, but the fence and the whatever would need to be voted on for historic preservation plan review is the fence, which was provided in the application specs, and whether the garage met the criteria, the demolition criteria.
So we're looking for a motion on that? Or
Yes.
just- Okay. Anybody got that? I guess it's just the fence and that we have, by default, we have to accept that the demolition of the garage happened.
Not by default. As we, you can find that it didn't meet the criteria. It's just that we don't have, for the record, that it didn't meet the criteria under 390 for the record, but then there's no other recourse outside of that. That's for you to decide.
So do we have drawings of the patio? I see drawings here, but I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Is this it?
Hello? Hello?
Shirley?
Yes, I've been saying hello for the past 10 minutes. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just want to say what Leighton has said is exactly what I was going to talk about. I went past the house when I was going to the American Legion, which is one of the buildings that's going to be renovated. That's a historic post. And I looked at the house, and I thought the house really looked, they didn't do very much to change it from the historic district, except for what Leighton said about the garage. Also, I want to say that I was going to talk about Mildred Trotman, not Mildred Trotman, but one of the Trotmans who lived in that house. I want to also say that when this historic district was started, it started in my dining room with 9 people, 3 from Princeton community, and how many left? 6 from those of us who grew up in this town. And when people call, I get so many calls, would you like to sell your house? I spend time giving them the history of the Witherspoon-Jackson community, and they hang up. So I want everyone to know, including the 2 who live on Lytle Street, is that when you move in this neighborhood, remember our ancestors and remember our families who took care of not only this community, but all of Princeton. So thank you, Leighton, for the speech that I was going to say. You already told it, but I kept saying hello, hello, nobody heard me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
We're coming in from this way.
We're still trying to reconcile what the drawings tell us and what we're trying to look at.
Yes.
From what we're looking, what Frida and I are looking at, we see a garage building that's marked masonry on the drawing, so that's not the one that came down, although that seems to be the location of it.
It was surveyed as masonry, but it was stucco over frame.
Oh. So that's, okay. So then the fence is this line here that Frida
The
can
line,
see.
yeah. So what are we approving regarding the fence?
So this is the building that actually did come down. And this is the fence line. And that's going to be, what do we know about the fence? Is it?
It's a shadow box cedar fence.
Yeah, we're just replacing the existing one, and then we're like adding a little gate at the end of the driveway.
Were you adding at the end of
It's
driveway?
like,
A gate.
if the
Oh, a
house
gate.
is here,
Yeah.
the driveway,
A
it's like the very end.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know.
No.
But this doesn't look like it because on the survey, it's like in the middle of the property. Let's see. Thank you. Oh, okay, so we didn't see those.
Oh, and this is
Just that, yeah, the shadow box,
Yeah.
yeah. And then this. And then I guess this will be the patio.
yeah, which is not really visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Like this, I don't have this. What's the motion?
Julie, do you have
Who's better at motions?
an emotion for this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion. I move that we approve the fence and the patio, and that we, as a commission, state our displeasure with the building department for issuing a demolition permit. You know, just as the statement that that practice should not continue.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Shirley first?
I
or
think
Frida?
Shirley first. is
Shirley,
fine.
Shirley second. All in favor, or are you going to do roll call?
Are we making a motion on the demolition itself?
Yeah, well, do we have to
Do they
go
have to?
beyond that and say we approve the demolition? Or can we just say that we didn't,
That's Lisa's question.
okay, Lisa?
Sure, you can do either. I mean, I think it might be helpful for the record for you to make a decision if you're able to on the demolition, but
Or it could be a case of we don't have enough information.
yeah,
Right, I think the most important point here is
Yeah.
just to make sure the process is corrected, and that, you know, I think that's where we kind of are. As far as what we see, you know, it could have been presented in a lot of different contexts, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's
that's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, so
You can absolutely.
Retract.
Yeah, you can, I guess, include that maybe, you know, that you may not have enough information to make that determination.
Right.
On the demolition, because it is after the fact and you don't have.
Right, so I guess that's where I stand.
And that our goal from that is that a message comes out that the building department really needs to coordinate with Sarah's office.
yes.
And these poor people had to come to the principal's office because of it.
Right,
So our motion is that we acknowledge that this demolition happened. If we'd had a chance to review it more properly, we may have a different outcome, or we may, I'm stumbling now.
I think we would have appreciated an opportunity to review it.
Right, we would have appreciated an opportunity to review it and hope that the building department hears this loud and clear. As for the fence, we find that that's acceptable, and
right.
and that the patio we can't see is not our business.
Right.
Leave that part out.
Roll call vote. Ms. Satterfield?
Yes.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Capizoli?
Yes.
Chair Scher?
Yes.
Resolution is passed.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, next up, courtesy review for the Princeton Battlefield State Park.
Small correction to the agenda. This is more of a presentation than a review, but the commission is, of course, open to provide comments.
I'm sorry,
This is a presentation.
presentation. Okay, right, I was reading it. Well, welcome, everybody. Lisa's about to get you all started. Just a presentation. All right, and I guess we're looking to see if we can get your audio, video stuff up. I see Sarah's down the hall.
Pressure's on. Oh, look at that.
Aha.
I saw it.
All right, we don't need to be swearing you in, but if you all as a group would like to introduce yourselves for the community, for the panel, and then we'll just take it from there.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is
Luke McKnight. I'm a state and local government relations manager for the American Battlefield Trust. I cover the state of New Jersey and spend a lot of time up here in Princeton. It's one of my favorite places to come. I'm very excited about the project that we're working on together.
I'm Will Krakauer. I'm the Resource Interpretive Specialist for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Parks, Forests, and Historic Sites, which is the long way of saying I am the Chief Historian and Site Manager for Princeton Battlefield State Park.
I'm Ben Strong, President of the Princeton Battlefield Society, and I've been on the board of the Princeton Battlefield Society since 2003. Sorry, 6.
Pleasure to be here with you. My name is Glenn Stack. I'm a preservation landscape architect, a consultant to the American Battlefield Trust, speaking today on the topic of cultural landscape preservation. Thank you.
All right, so I'm kicking it off. For those of you who have not visited the battlefield, I'm certain you've driven through it. It is obviously an important part of our nation's history, the world's history, but more specifically of Princeton's history. If you want to just hit that real quick. A brief overview, in case you are unaware of the importance of this site. The Battle of Princeton occurred on the morning of January the 3rd, 1777. We are now less than 6 months away from the 250th anniversary of that date. It is the third and final battle in what became known as the 10 Crucial Days campaign, which began with Washington's crossing of the Delaware River on Christmas night, 1776. 9 days of fighting and maneuvering later, General Washington commits what we call a ruse de guerre, a ruse of war, and marches overnight from Trenton to Princeton and catches the rear guard stationed here at Princeton on the morning of the 3rd, fighting this climactic action. It cements Washington's reputation as a commanding general of the Army, and it also seals what I like to call the first chapter of the American Revolution in favor of the Continental Army and keeps the flame of independence from growing out prematurely. Our story begins much, much later in 2016. The Institute for Advanced Study was beginning a project to construct new faculty housing on the property adjacent to the battlefield known as Maxwell's Field. It had gotten almost all the way through when the American Battlefield Trust, then known as the Civil War Trust, became involved and offered to broker an agreement with the IAS for the property, what will become known as Maxwell's Field. What could have been just a small sign and a new trail on this property next to the battlefield instead became something that's wholly unique for the New Jersey State Park Service and something truly wonderful in the world of historic preservation. By 2022, just a few years later, we had conducted an interpretive plan for the park, which had a vision for what the park would one day become. It included new trails, it included new fences, and it included the possibility of a visitor and education center for the site. And we'll talk a little more about the needs for the site as we go forward. Something that's been on my mind lately, and maybe the rest of yours if you're avid baseball watchers, is if you build it, they will come. This is an incredible example of that. I started at the battlefield in 2018, so right as the initial agreement kicked off. And in that time, I started with about 400 school children coming in per year. We are now well over 5,000 per year. Because of that, things have to change. Princeton Battlefield has largely suffered from what I politely call benign neglect for a very long time. Maintenance has been deferred in every quadrant of the park for far too long, and we now find ourselves at that wonderful and unique juncture between a major commemorative event, the 250th, and back in the 2010s, the threat of development on the eastern side of the park. Between the Department of Environmental Protection, the American Battlefield Trust, and the Princeton Battlefield Society, we've come together to work on bringing this interpretive plan to reality. We've created MOAs with each other going all the way back to 2023. to fundraise for continued interpretation and the rehabilitation to the site, and to preserve it, support its preservation treatment moving forward. I'm sure it comes as no surprise that managing a site like this is incredibly expensive and that the state's budget is not very big. So we learned very quickly that we're going to have to rely on the township, we're going to have to rely on private funding, which is why this memorandum of understanding is so important, and that we're so grateful to have had the American Battlefield Trust hop on, and of course always continuously grateful for the Princeton Battlefield Society's role in keeping us relevant within the community. There are 4 major projects that have come to shape the most recent rehabilitation project, and you probably noted I keep using the phrase rehabilitation. We cannot use the word restoration. Restoration means that we would actually have physical evidence or a photograph of something that we're going to recreate, and as I'm sure you're well aware, there are no cameras in 1776, so we're going based on hand-drawn maps and paintings of the time, as well as archaeology and primary source accounts written by the men and women who were actually living here in Princeton, in what was actually not Princeton, but the Quaker settlement of Stony Brook 250 years ago. The 2 projects we want to highlight for you today is what we call Project 1, Trees, Trails, Fields, and Fences, and Project 4, which involves the Maxwell's Field rehabilitation. The other 2 projects are largely being conducted by the NJDEP. As a brief overview, as I mentioned, our visitation has increased exponentially over the last several years. We need to take away some of the onus on the Thomas Clark House, which is an original witness structure to the battle, now well over 250 years old. It cannot support that many people coming through and act as the site's sole visitor center and visitor contact station for much longer. We also want a place to better tell the story, the full story, not only of the fighting that occurred on the morning of the 3rd, but the story of the Quaker settlement that was here and the settlement in Princeton and the College of New Jersey's role in the American Revolution as well. The new entry parking is also being covered by the NJDEP. I am sure we will be coming to you in due time to discuss that. So I'll start where we always start, and where I'm sure you always start too, which is the research. This is the earliest map of the battlefield as it existed at the time. There are certainly earlier maps of the area, but none of them have as much detail as this one. It was done in 1816 by a man named James Wilkinson, who at the time is a soldier in the Continental Army. When he wrote his memoirs, he came back to these places and did an extensive amount of research on the maps and the troop movements as they existed. Because this was the earliest map and it so very clearly depicted the orchard, and not only the orchard, but also what we know today as Mercer Road or Princeton Pike, which is running right down the center of the orchard, we chose to use this as one of our primary sources for the location and the recreation of the orchard and a number of fence lines, which you'll see in just a moment where we're going to be placing those. And for those who aren't aware of the history of the Stony Brook settlements, you'll see a number of names up there that might sound familiar. Thomas Clark being the one at the battlefield, Benjamin Clark, the property today largely owned by the IAS and the Historic Society of Princeton, the Quaker Meeting House, which has exactly the exact same square footage that it had 250 years ago in 1776. William Clark to the east, and to the north, Matthew Clark and Robert White, who is married into the Clark family as well. Go ahead. This is one of my favorite photographs of the park. It's one of the earliest aerial photographs, taken in 1945. It depicts the battlefield on its west side, looking east back towards town. If you were to follow the road in the middle there, that's Mercer Road. It would take you all the way back to Princeton. Some notable features down on the bottom right where it says number 3 is the Thomas Clark House and the barn. If you follow the driveway all the way back down towards the center of the photograph to Mercer Road, you'll note a number of small shrubs on the side of the road. Those are the Norway spruces, which today tower over the driveway at Princeton Battlefield State Park. They had been planted about a decade prior. And if you look across the field there, on the upper left-hand side, you might see David's house, all the way in the back left corner. But that number 1 spot there was recognized as the common grave, where the mass grave is today. It's near where the colonnade stands today. This photograph was taken about 10 years before the colonnade was moved. You can actually see it in the photograph just above number 2 there is the Mercer Manor sitting up there, and the colonnade is, at the moment, still attached to that building. Go ahead. I like that image because we've used a similar vantage point for what we expect the battlefield will look like come the end of this year. What you're seeing all the way on the top side of the image is the faculty housing constructed by the Institute for Advanced Study. That housing has concluded. What you're seeing as you come down is the addition of Maxwell's Field and the new trails that will link the existing park to the new section of the park, which is slated to be added by the end of the year to Princeton Battlefield. There are 2 tree lines if you go back to the previous one, 2 tree lines of note. The first is right where it says number 4. That's, of course, the old Mercer oak there. But that tree line today no longer exists. There are maybe 3 or 4 trees still standing along that tree line. It's important for us because it's the property boundary between Thomas Clark and his brother William Clark. And the other boundary of note is just to the north of that. And so if you go look for number 2, and look down, follow that tree line there. That is a driveway, which we recently discovered when doing work on the property. It's the original driveway of William Clark's home, which would have been somewhere in that mess of trees 250 years ago. And you can see it there with a few trees dotting that extant road structure. The fencing that you see in the image here is all historic. It is chosen based on archaeology and maps of the area and descriptions from the soldiers and the Clark family and the Hale family who followed them. One other item of note, which is worth mentioning, you'll see near the top left of the image, is the apple orchard, which is sort of the premier historic preservation project for us, the recreation of a commemorative orchard near the location of where the original orchard stood. Apple orchards are incredibly important to 18th century history. Everybody who owned property had one, either for mass production, mostly for their own consumption, or in some cases, as I like to say, mad scientists who like to breed different kinds of apples as a pastime. It also plays, of course, a central role in the opening shots of the Battle of Princeton. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. McKnight to tell us a little bit about our partnership.
Great, thanks, Will. And yeah, I just want to highlight here just how important the partnerships are with the state of New Jersey, the Princeton Battlefield Society, and the American Battlefield Trust to making this whole Reimagining Princeton plan come together. Just a little bit about the American Battlefield Trust. We're a national, nonpartisan, nonprofit battlefield preservation organization dedicated to preserving our nation's hallowed ground, from the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, and the War of 1812. To date, we have saved 63,000 acres across the nation, across 25 different states. We provide a wide variety of educational resources on our website and our YouTube channel, and have reached 40 million people annually. So that's just a little bit about the American Battlefield Trust. Now, we originally, as Will mentioned, were the Civil War Trust and only did Civil War battlefields. Princeton Battlefield was one of the first Revolutionary battlefields that we came in and helped save land at. So as he mentioned, the Institute of Advanced Study was going to build faculty housing. You can see the original footprint in the light blue there. We were able to come in with a group of preservationists and actually reach an agreement. Got them to revise the footprint down to that dark blue oval up there, where it currently sits. And as a result, we're able to save Maxwell's Field, the site of Washington's charge, where he led the charge against the British, helping to turn the tide of the battle, and ultimately the American Revolution. So this is very, very important hallowed ground that we were a part of helping to save. Now, as part of our Phase 1 interpretive work at the battlefield, we've done a wide variety of things, and I encourage you all to get out there and check them out if you haven't. But in the top right, you can see Will actually interacting with the large topographical map of the battlefield. And this is a very great feature. You can use your phone, scan the QR code, and overlay troop movements on the map. So it's one of the best ways you can really learn about how the battle unfolded. Some really cool other features that we've got on the battlefield are the battle windows. So we took a painting of the Battle of Princeton and we're able to overlay it on the landscape of the Princeton battlefield. We have 2 of those now at the park, and this is one of the coolest features I've seen at a battlefield. And actually, I think it's something that's going to spread to other battlefields across the country with how popular it has been. Yes, and part of the work we've done has also involved archaeology as part of the due diligence of anytime the ground is being disturbed, we're going to do archaeology there. Found some very cool things there. One of my personal favorites is the coin from the Jacobite Rebellion that they found there, featured in the center of the picture here. This photo just shows all of the archaeology that has gone on throughout the years at the Princeton battlefield. You can see in the red and the green all areas that have been looked at by archaeologists, notably around the Clark House down in the south, up near the Orchard, and near where the Institute of Advanced Study is as well. So just showing all the areas we've done archaeology at. Will mentioned this a little bit earlier, but sort of phase 2 of the project is the hopeful wish that we will have a visitor and education center at the Princeton battlefield so that the Thomas Clark House no longer needs to serve as the sort of visitor center. It's a historic house and it's really not best equipped for that. We want to try to preserve that and have a proper visitor and education center. It'll be better to accommodate larger school groups and visitors. It'll hopefully attract more tourism to the town as well. Just looping in the theme of partners as well. With the Orchard, we brought in pomologists, apple experts. I just learned that word recently. From Mount Vernon, Monticello, all sorts of historic sites to help advise how to best manage and steward this new orchard that we plan to have placed at the battlefield, which is a very important feature of the battlefield to understand how the battle unfolded. That's what we want, is we want George Washington, if he was to come back and look at the battlefield, he would recognize it as the Battle of Princeton like he saw it back in the day. As part of the work goes on, phase 1 also includes field management. So the trust has been working very hard to reduce mowing on the park and to bring back the natural biodiversity of the area. The trust has a land stewardship expert that is leading the charge for us on this, Tom Sayeli. He takes very careful work to make sure any ground nesting birds and natural wildlife are not disturbed, and actually enhancing the environment of Princeton through this work. And lastly here, I'll highlight Will's personal favorite here, the Battlefield BioBlitz. I don't know if you all have heard of it, but we've partnered with Sustainable Princeton, the Friends of Princeton Open Space, and even Rutgers University to ultimately get people out to the battlefield and document the biodiversity that they see on the battlefield, and this will help inform future stewardship of the land. So that's been a hit so far.
That's fine.
All right, and Ben, I'll go ahead and let you talk about the Princeton Battlefield Society here.
Thanks. Princeton Battlefield Society has been here for quite a long time, since the 1970s. In a nutshell, our job would be to protect, preserve, and promote the Princeton battlefield and the memory of the men who fought there, because it is very much hallowed ground. The American Revolution turns at the Battle of Princeton in favor of the Patriots. Having said that, we have been promoting a very vigorous program, both in an educational sense and working with this tremendous team, as you can see here. We're very energized, we're very active, and we're doing an awful lot of different things, such as Young Patriots Day, bringing the younger generation, experience the Battle of Princeton, which is our very large-scale reenactment, which we're doing again this year on December 27th. I should add, last year we had about 3,500 people there. Sorry, my voice is going with allergies. And that's the biggest crowd we've ever had for one of those. And I think this year it's going to be even bigger, and we have great expectations for that event. We also do tours on a regular basis for people often from out of state, bringing in the the enthusiasts for American history from all across the country. We have a Cadwallader lecture series where we do every couple of months, usually about every 3 months or so, a lecture from an author or a historian, sometimes other individuals on the American Revolution or something to do with Princeton. We've had a lot of success with that and got a lot of attention for that. And we just do whatever we can to bring the focus to the Battle of Princeton, which we feel has been somewhat overlooked over the years. And the group that we have here with our agreement with the DEP and the ABT, American Battlefield Trust, and the Department of Environmental Protection, we feel we have really got something going here that's really good, not only for the battlefield, but for Princeton, for the state of New Jersey. So it's a type of public-private partnership that people want to have, but often don't get. You sort of aspire to do what I think we're doing right now, because we're really hitting on all 8 cylinders. So from our perspective, this is great stuff that's going on, and we've had a great partnership as well with the Township of Princeton, so we're hoping that this can continue.
Thank you, Ben. So now on to the application for project authorization. This is the document that was sent forward to the Historic Preservation Office in Trenton, and you all received a copy of that. Specifically, what I wanted to provide just a context for, the last sort of bit of additional context here, is battlefields as cultural landscapes. And right, you deal with historic properties that come to you, and those properties may be significant for a historic event. It may be attributed to a historic designer. It may be an ethnographic landscape. It may be a vernacular landscape. All of those things come together in the same way for landscapes as they do for elements of architecture as well. But cultural landscapes are defined as natural and cultural spaces that have been shaped by human interaction. They are governed by the Secretary of Interior standards in the same way that the Secretary of Interior standards were written for buildings, but only recently, in about the 1990s, were those same standards written to apply to landscapes. So within the arc of preservation, it's a relatively young discipline, but again, the same standards uphold. For treatments, preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction, which you see frequently to buildings, as Will had mentioned, this is a rehabilitation. Rehabilitation largely says protect what you inherit, but repurpose for a new and compatible use. And when Will classified this as it could have just been a preservation action that started all of this, the preservation of 13 acres, and someone puts up a sign and says, we saved this. But it has gone far beyond that. It has been transformative on the part of the state, on the part of local partners, and the local community to make this something that really is befitting of a National Historic Landmark battlefield, a best-of-class, globally significant site. So, as mentioned, the study was done of the archaeology, all of the background research of both natural and cultural resources completed. There are 3 principal movements, the meadow restoration. And I just want to say something, from the standpoint of sustainable practices, there are over 50 acres of land that are mowed biweekly?
Yeah, biweekly.
Biweekly. We have the opportunity now to take those 50 acres and create more sustainable meadows that reinforce the individual properties, holdings, spatial character of the historic period. When we talk about historic landscapes, there's trees, there's structures, there's circulation, all of that's important, but spatial character is a very significant contributing feature, and the establishment of the meadows will be transformative to that spatial character. Again, proposed species mix, looking at both warm season grasses, native legumes, and pollinator species. Pound for pound, the acre of meadow restored, and as naturalists, they say restoration, and they mean something entirely different than we would talk about it from the standpoint of preservation, but a restored meadow, pound for pound, provides more oxygen than an acre of trees from that standpoint. The rate of oxygen, the deep root mass that is attributed to this not only supports the reinterpretation and a more authentic experience of that 1777 condition, but it's better for the environment. We also looked at, again, 3 major movements. The historic William Clark Lane on the far right was a tree survey that was conducted by Davie Resource Group that identified the condition of that property line separating the IAS property, now owned by the American Battlefield Trust, and the state park property. Identified, largely consists of ash trees, invasive trees, dead trees. But we did an extensive study, really over 6 months, to look at what to save. No large trees of significance will be removed that aren't dead or ash. From that standpoint, there are 219 trees proposed for removal. 40 of those are dead, 30 are ash, 35 are hazard trees. There are 115 regulated trees by your ordinance that are proposed for removal. We've worked closely with Taylor Saputer, the arborist for the municipality, and are working to far exceed the planting, the compensatory planting for the removals. I think by the compensatory planting, we would be in the 100s range. We're over 200, and we're planting those on the east buffer, adjacent to the IAS property, in the commemorative orchard, as was discussed. And then we've worked with the Friends of Princeton Open Space to identify an area that's been succumbed to emerald ash borer and are planting 100 trees there as well. Why would we do that and not, plant them back at the battlefield? In part is to steward the resource. It's an archaeological, sensitive resource. So every tree that's planted, in the eyes of the archaeologist is injurious to that resource. So how do we balance that in a way that's both respectful of nature and culture? All the trees planted back will be of native varieties that have provenance to Princeton. Last thing, the heirloom orchard, as Will mentioned, this is a topic in landscape that I will say is slightly different than buildings. In a building, you would never build back a historic structure that is no longer there. In most cases, you wouldn't do that. Landscapes and trees and individual features like fences have a lifespan within the landscape. And when they succumb, they are replaced within a cultural landscape when there's documentation to support that. And that's precisely what's proposed in the rehabilitation of an orchard. As Will mentioned, there on the far side at the end of the William Clark Lane. We've worked with national experts, pomologists, which is a fun word to say, and they have identified the heirloom species that have provenance to Princeton in the mid-18th century. We are supporting that with a collection of crab apples that will give structure to the orchard as it develops over time. These heirloom orchards and varieties are grown to spec. You can't just run out to Lowe's and buy them. They are grown specifically for this battlefield, and the community that has congealed around this is really quite significant. They are writing a management plan for this orchard that will span both staff overview, hired for hire consultation to take care of the trees, and then volunteer efforts spurred by the Princeton Battlefield Society, local garden clubs, and others that are looking to care for this icon of nature and culture on the battlefield. So what was put forward to the Historic Preservation, to the Historic Preservation Office is a collection of both, if you see in the far right-hand corner, non-ground disturbing activities and light ground disturbing activities. So when we say fields, fences, trees, and trails, these are, low impact, high return when it comes to the rehabilitation of this space. This is a view of Maxwell's Field as it exists now. Again, years of inattention here to be assessed and opened up to the public. This is a view, of course, of the overall landscape character of the battlefield. Even in this photo, it looks a little bit different than it did a year ago. These are the pathways that are now proposed, and they're already being mown to change the experience, to make it more authentic, and to interpret features that no longer exist. This is the tree line that separates the IAS property and the state park property. Right in the center of it is a very definable depression of the William Clark Lane. It went straight to his house. There are only two roads that run in that north-south direction, and they both went to Clark's, one to Thomas Clark and one to William Clark. And so that exists in there. That will remain as a living relic. It also has small depressions for the hedgerows or fence lines that would have existed to support and protect that lane during the period. Again, conditions of the current state of things at the state. There are a lot of invasives, and the BioBlitz has, provided a baseline to understand what the character of that landscape is today. And I'm happy to say that partners have signed an agreement to do a BioBlitz every 5 years for the next 5 years, just to demonstrate program efficacy. So that should tell us, how we're doing as new species are planted. When we look at historic fence lines, there are at minimum 3 details. This is a non-historic fence line, so this is a 5-rail snake rail fence. And that's to be placed in locations where there weren't historic fence lines, but you need the control of vehicular access, those sorts of things. There's a dilapidated trail that runs along that property line. Again, that historic William Clark Lane is right off screen to our right. That will be removed, and again, new trails put in its place. Even today, to the far left, you can see the old property line between Thomas Clark to the right and William Clark to the left. And again, these are the IAS properties that were built in 2019 and beyond, so additional trees will be planted along that buffer to support the screening of those lands. This is a snapshot of the woodlots that are over at Mountain Lakes, an area that has succumbed to emerald ash borer, and we will be working with them to plant 100 trees there. And that's a location within Mountain Lakes to show in that circular area the roughly half-acre portion of land. This is an area of the proposed meadow restorations, and so these will go through a process of controlled burns or prescribed burns, and working with the State Forest Service, who will be managing that project. The locality and working with the planning office here is very excited about that. This would be the first of its kind in Princeton. It is, absolutely essential from an ecosystem standpoint to contribute to the rehabilitation of this site. Again, the historic fence lines. So this would be along the old historic roads and lanes. We saw the non-historic, and then these are the 5-rail post and rail fences that are out there today that are also documented from a historic standpoint. And then lastly, the location of additional trees to be planted along the IAS buffer. And with that, that is the end of our review today. We're happy to answer any additional questions or comments that you have in review, and I'll point it to the state or to the American Battlefield Trust accordingly. So thank you for your time.
Wow, that was a great presentation, and I kind of know some of these pieces, but to see it all together is really great. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Or it's very exciting.
I have comments. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
This is Shirley. First of all, thank you, gentlemen. When I was in elementary school, when they integrated the schools, and I was at the elementary school on Nassau Street, our history was about Princeton history, and we were taken to the battlefield. And I remember a cannon and cannonballs that were shaped like shaped in order. What happened to those cannons and that cannonball? Because it had been there for years.
That's the million-dollar question, believe it or not. We don't know what happened to those cannonballs. No one seems to know the straight answer. My theory is that they're currently in the basement of the State Museum in Trenton. Those were Civil War era cannonballs, and at some point, somebody decided to take them off of the field. The one cannon that used to be out there is actually still there, but it's not in the same spot. It's now on the porch of the Clark House in a new sort of carriage for it, the old one having broken. And probably when you were there, it was on its side, sitting in the dirt for some time. But yeah, that's the million-dollar question. I get that one a lot. Where are the cannonballs?
They were up on a hill, and
Yep.
you could. It looks like they were facing the land.
Yeah, they were placed near the site where General Mercer was believed to have fallen. That monument, when we did the archaeology, we found some evidence of the concrete of the original monument, so we know exactly where it was. It's just a question of when did those disappear and where did they go? And the state actually does not know what happened to them. So come back to me soon. That's my white whale. I'll find them eventually.
I also want to thank the lady. I don't know who the lady is that regrew the Mercer tree, but it's beautiful.
Yes, one of our neighbors from Parkside Drive is responsible for that 1980s repopulation of the oak. So the one that's sitting there out there today, we lovingly call Mercer Oak Jr. or Baby Mercer Oak. She's over 50 years old now, so she's not a baby anymore, but she is beautiful. Right now, Mercer Oak III is currently growing in my office, getting ready for replanting somewhere on the field soon.
Well, I like going down Mercer. I always go that way because it's beautiful. But I want to know what's happening to the grass because the grass is all brown now.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. We're letting the grass grow out as part of this sustainable programming for the nature of the site. Eventually what you're going to see happen, and actually quite soon, we hope, is that all of that is going to be knocked back down and then treated and prepared for a prescribed burn. Once the burn takes place, we will then be able to sow what is it called? Winter wheat. Well, we're going to grow winter wheat as a starter crop, a starter crop, which is winter wheat, which interestingly enough, is actually what was growing at the battlefield at the time of the battle, was winter wheat. Once that winter wheat comes up, we will then make the transition from crop to natural meadow and natural grass. So wildflowers, pollinators, legumes, grasses that are all native to New Jersey will take the place of some of those larger swaths of land. And as we continue our progress, years, a few more years down the road with the creation of the visitor center and the removal of the current parking lot and the making of the new parking lot, we'll open more land for the open space that a lot of Princetonians are used to for flying their kites and picnicking, and we're going to enhance that area for our visitors as well. It's a delicate balance between this is hallowed ground. People fought and bled and died here for an idea. That all men were created equal, and at the same time, it's one of the few places with open space left in Mercer County in New Jersey. So we have to straddle that line very, very carefully, and we do have people's thoughts in mind. So thank you for your input on the grass.
Thank you. One other thing, Kip Cherry, who grew up in Princeton, is quite an advocate for the battleground.
She's sitting back here.
Kip Cherry's there?
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. A word for Kip.
Any other commission members want to comment or ask any questions?
I had a quick comment. I wear two hats because I've been a member of the commission since 2003, but I've also been a member of the Princeton Friends meeting since 2005. So we're very happy, I think, from a preservation perspective, all the work you're doing. It's tremendously exciting and enriching our community. And from the Princeton Friends meeting, I think you guys have been very respectful and very aware of the Quaker history in our town, especially with the Clarks and the neighboring cemetery and meeting house and the land that, they use to worship there. So we also appreciate your consideration and sensitivity to our meeting. So thank you.
It's our pleasure. It has been and remains my interpretive philosophy that the Battle of Princeton is 0.001% of the life of that land, and that the rest of the time in that period it belonged to somebody. It was somebody's home. It was somebody's place of worship. So our story begins not with George Washington crossing the Delaware, but with the people who lived in this land. And that's what visitors get when they come to the Clark House, and what we hope they'll get in our future visitor center.
And we have had at the meeting some ancestors from the Clark family that have come by to visit us. So
It's we saw that they came by a couple weeks ago or a
Yeah.
month or so ago. They were awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed that presentation. I can't wait to see what all that happens, and that people can know more and more about what happened here. Plus, it's fun to say pomologist.
Yeah, everybody's new favorite word, pomologist.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you for your
I
time.
wanted to add just one
sorry.
thing quickly.
Sorry.
I wrote a brief memo that basically just summarized, like, hey, you guys are coming in. But wanted to emphasize the importance of this is a heavily designated property. It's a state park. It's listed on the state and national registers. It's a National Historic Landmark. It's locally designated. So there's a lot of eyes on this, and public and private partnerships, volunteer organizations working together for this important stewardship project. I'm very excited and interested in the controlled burn. I think that will be very educational and helpful to the community for how important that is to the environment and how it can benefit the ecology and the biosystems.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the nerdy history apples and maybe potentially in the future nerdy history cider, but we'll see. Gotta grow those trees first. But I also want to point out the importance of this project going forward and the parties involved on it here at the state and the local level, because we do currently have a federal administration that is trying to update the Section 106 regulations to roll them back to not respect anything that is essentially not the built environment. So it's going to impact cultural landscapes. So to have this in place and to have us all working together on this is significant and important, and I like that we're doing this together and moving forward.
I think, yeah, here. Everyone is a like mind with you. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for those remarks. Perfect. Thank you. Up next, concept review for 57 Birch Avenue.
On technology here, for the laptop, should I just plug it in here, or do we have a thumb drive we can provide? We also have old school handouts if this does not work. we have a problem with my law firm's overactive security on its videos. Not, if we could hand these out.
Yep, these are all handouts. I'm all for it. Yep.
I apologize to Shirley because she's not going to have them.
Yours has
Hold on, folks. We may have the technology solved here. All right, thank you very much, and I apologize for our technical difficulties. My name is Kevin Moore with the firm of Stevens and Lee, and I represent our applicant, Gray 35 LLC, which is owned by John Shadid and Yumna Shadid. They live in Lebanon, as in the country, not the township, so they could not be here this evening. They purchased the property on October 30th, 2025, and the property is 57 Birch Avenue. It's block 6902, lot 24 on the municipality tax map. It's approximately 5,999 square feet in area. It's in the R9 zoning district of the Old Township. It's in the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District, which is why we're here this evening. The house, in its existing condition now, is 2,183 square feet. It has 2 stories plus a finished attic. It had 3 units on the property record card, but it's only zoned for single family. Will be appearing before the zoning board. When my clients purchased the property, it had an illegal occupancy of about 30 people. It is now empty. And they have, it was in terrible condition, and they have removed much of the damaged and dilapidated interior. And we're seeking concept review. And I just want to clarify before Jason Vico, our architect, goes into this in detail. This is a rehabilitation and investment project. There's no change whatsoever proposed to the building footprint, no change to the building envelope. There's some minor demolition and in-kind reconstruction of a very severely damaged rear wall, and the plan is to refurbish the exterior, as we'll show you this evening, and refurbish the interior with 3 apartment units. I have 2 professionals presenting this evening, and the first is Jason L. Vico, our project architect, and then James Shamalik, our civil engineer, who will provide some conceptual landscaping review. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Jason. You're on, Jason.
Good?
Yeah, go.
I'd like to do this in a couple different parts, if it's okay with the board. I'd like to go through my notes that respond to the project as an overall project and the board's response letter, then go through the plans of what we're proposing, then go through 2 different sets of photographs, one of the exterior of the building and then one of the interior before the building was gutted, if that's okay. Starting with the notes. As Kevin said, this overall project approach is a rehabilitation and reinvestment into the existing building. We want to retain the existing structure rather than replace it, correct unsafe and inappropriate previous alterations, repair deteriorated structural and building envelope conditions, improve the exterior appearance and residential character, convert the property into 3 safe code-compliant residential units, maintain the existing overall scale, massing, and relationship to Birch Avenue. Staff has already indicated that the project as a whole does not appear to pose a significant impact to the property or surrounding Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District. Now, the historical context, important distinction between the history of the property and the building that currently exists. The 1927 Sanborn map shows an earlier wood frame duplex at the property. Earlier, the structure was demolished by approximately 1956. Current building was constructed by the mid-1960s. Existing building is therefore not the early 20th century duplex formerly located on the property. The current building represents a later period in the evolution of Witherspoon-Jackson neighborhood. Witherspoon-Jackson's significance extends beyond the individual architectural styles and includes its social, cultural, and residential history. We read through Adam Welch's The Witherspoon-Jackson Neighborhood, How One Community Changed Princeton. It reinforces the importance of viewing the district as an evolving community and neighborhood. Now, the existing building construction. The main portion of the existing building is wood frame construction with a brick exterior. The rear portion, which was an addition at a later date, is of masonry construction with a brick exterior. The staff's memorandum questioned whether the building was masonry or framed construction and expressed willingness to review existing conditions in the field. We're going to coordinate on-site review with staff if necessary, and I'll get to that a little later on. The existing previous alterations, the property was previously used illegally for multiple apartment units. A legal rear stair was constructed to provide access to the basement apartment areas. Rear stair construction undermined existing footing. The existing building has undergone numerous alterations over time. The current project will remove or correct inappropriate and unsafe conditions. The existing conditions should not automatically be assumed to represent historical significant conditions. In our proposal, we propose to treat the exterior brick with a whitewash. That's more of a generalized term. It's going to help us repair deteriorated brick as required. We're going to repoint the masonry where necessary. It's going to help clean existing brick prior to application of any finish. We're not going to use the conventional exterior latex paint. I think that's an important note. Proposed finish to be a breathable and masonry compatible. The potential systems we're going to propose is either a lime wash, a mineral-based masonry coating. Both are similar and breathable masonry treatments. The finish is intended to visually unify the existing repairs, differing brick conditions, and previous alterations. We are willing to do a field mock-up if necessary, so it can be reviewed before the whole building gets that treatment. The staff's principal concern about the treatment was the previously unpainted brick and potential long-term masonry impacts. Also part of the project is some window modifications. Selectively adjust second-floor window locations, improve relationship between first and second-floor openings. That's going to help us better establish a vertical alignment, a rhythm, a proportion, and an architectural organization. Maintain overall building height, building massing, roof configuration, and residential scale and character. The changes are intended as intended as limited facade improvements rather than a wholesale redesign. The Princeton's Witherspoon Jackson District documentation recognizes the vernacular and altered nature of much of the neighborhood's building stock and supports reasonable flexibility in the rehabilitation. We're also proposing some front entrance upgrades. We want to reconstruct and improve the existing front stoop, provide a modest roof over the primary entrance for protection from the weather. That roof will contain a standing seam metal roof. It's going to improve the weather protection at the entrance, provide clear entrance hierarchy. It's going to add some architectural interest and curb appeal. The pent roof remains subordinate to the principal building and proposes compatible new element rather than attempted to recreate an undocumented historical feature, being a front porch. It was suggested in the letter of possibly putting back a front porch that may have been there. Staff notes the existing brick conditions suggest that a full-width porch may have existed. We acknowledge the importance of the front porches with proportions to the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood. No historic photograph or drawing has currently been identified showing the porch. The existing information does not establish the following: exact width, depth, roof form or pitch, roof material, column number or spacing, column design, railing, stair configuration, trim or decorative details, and whether the porch was open or enclosed. There's currently brick ghosting may establish that the architectural element existed but does not provide sufficient information to accurately reconstruct its complete configuration. The Secretary of the Interior Standards caution against conjectural reconstruction and creation of a false sense of historical development. Any reconstruction of a missing feature should be supported by adequate physical or documentary evidence. Continue with proposed pent roof unless sufficient documentation supporting an accurate porch reconstructed is identified. That's our current approach. There's also a practical and economic impact of a full porch if one were to go back. There's 3 existing gas meters located on the front face of the building. The porch would have to have those relocated to a new location. The associated work may include utility company coordination, new gas service piping, new building penetrations, removal of gas piping, exterior repairs, and site work. It's going to add significant construction costs to the project. The economic impact should be considered secondary to the preservation concern regarding undocumented reconstruction. Then we have economic sustainability and preservation. The long-term preservation requires buildings to remain occupied, useful, maintained, and economically viable. The three-unit residential use provides a viable long-term use for the property. The property provides funding and incentive to correct existing structural and envelope deficiencies. Rehabilitation preserves the existing building rather than replacing it. Improvements contribute to overall condition and appearance of the streetscape. Preservation goals should be balanced with reasonable adaptive rehabilitation and long-term economic sustainability.
Let's go to the picture.
Yep, if I can go through the pictures real quick. I'll start with the exterior. That should be the one that just says photos, not exterior. Let's see. Example packet. Right there. Yep, that one. Yep. That's it. So the first picture, photo 1, this is a front elevation of the entry. You can see between the windows there appears to be some patching or replacement of brick at one time. It also shows the stoop to the left and the 3 gas meters currently there. Photo 2 shows pretty much the upper facade and the same brick patching in the middle. It also shows that the middle windows currently are not aligned. The second floor middle windows kick slightly to the right from the lower window. The 2 to the right are aligned over top of each other. The middle alignment is something that we're proposing to fix. Photo 3 is just another example of the left side of the patching in the middle between the windows and the 2 window alignments. Photo 5 shows the existing condition of the front stoop. The left side is a mixture of brick and masonry. Photo 6 shows a rear entry that was created at some time without permit. It started to undermine the footing, which can be seen in a couple pictures coming up. Photos 7 and 8 just further show that rear entry. Photo 8, if you look towards the left, that's the footing that's sticking out, hovering kind of in the air. Photo 9 shows where the mortar is kind of falling out from previous repairs. One of our proposed objectives is to repoint the brick and fix it up. Photo 10 is a side picture showing the similar mortar where it's coming out from a previous repair. It also shows the mix of both brick and block construction. And then photo 11 and 12 are from the opposite side of the front porch where the exterior parch coat has completely come off, and at one time there was numerous materials stuck in there to infill it. The next page shows some context along Birch Avenue. The first picture is directly across the street. The structure to the right is a white horizontal sided house. The structure to the left is a masonry with white parge structure. Birch Avenue 2 picture is further down the street. I believe that's a small church that has a masonry white exterior. And then Birch Avenue 3 picture is just another picture showing that there's quite a bit of white exterior structures along the street. These last two photos I think are the most important. This is an example of the exterior treatment that we would like to do to the current brick. It's going to be more of a lime wash or mineral wash. It does not completely get rid of the look of the red brick. The red brick is still allowed to peek through in certain areas. It is consistent with other structures throughout Princeton, and it's mindful to the existing red brick without completely covering it up like a latex paint would. We are more than willing to do a mock-up on site in a small area so the board can take a look and get approval if necessary. The next set of photos is going to be interior photos. I'll go through these pretty quick. These just show the conditions of what was there before our clients purchased the building. To Kevin's point, there was, what, 30 units?
Yeah.
There was roughly 30 apartment units in this 2.5-story structure. They had people in units in the basement with an unfinished basement and a dirt floor. Photos 1 and 2 show a typical kitchen and sleeping area that was there before. Photos 3 is another area of the kitchen and living. Photo 4 is a shower. Photo 5 is another shot of a bathroom. And then photo 6, believe it or not, that was how people were, that photo 6, there was units down there with that basement as it is in that picture. And they were getting to that basement unit from that stair in the back. Photos 7 and 8 just show typical living areas and sleeping areas prior to the demolition. And then 9 and 10 are similar pictures. Now, I'd like to walk through the plans real quick. Top one. Yep. So the first page is a color-coded.
Quick question. Did you note that there were 30 units in this house?
Do we know?
30 individuals or sleeping areas?
No.
Our
Yeah.
client, purchased the property. As I said, they have visited Princeton. They hope to actually retire to Princeton, not in this house, but and their son goes to Rutgers. But they were unaware of the situation when they purchased it. It obviously wasn't listed that way, but when they took title, they saw and determined the situation and corrected it.
Thank you.
And it's, for clarity, it's empty now.
Thank you.
So just to walk through the drawings real quick, the first page is color codes the units. There's 3 units proposed. On the left image is the first floor plan. The blue unit is on the second and third floor, in the second floor and attic. So the first, you come into a first entry vestibule, it takes you up to the second floor and attic space. The yellow space is a unit in the front, and the pink space is a unit in the back.
Question before you move on, please.
Mhm.
Which color depicts existing conditions?
Say- say-
Which color shows us what is existing now?
It's going to be the next page.
I see.
Yeah, the next
I
page, the next page, A1-00. The image on the left is a demolition plan, which shows it how it sits now. The red is what's going to be removed. If you notice at the top of that demolition plan, that back area is being completely removed because that is the area where the foundation wall and footing were undermined from that rear stair. The image to the right is a proposed floor plan for that first floor. It's going to have the one unit in the front with one bedroom and kitchenette and living space. The unit in the back will also be a one-bedroom unit with kitchen and living space. And then that vestibule up front goes up to the second floor, which is on the next page, sheet A1.10. Again, the image on the left is a demolition plan, which shows the existing conditions, the red being removed. The image on the right is the plan for the proposed apartment. This unit's going to be a two-bedroom unit. This is the second floor, which contains a living space, a bedroom, and a kitchenette. Sheet A-1.20 shows the attic level. That's going to contain an additional bathroom and bedroom for that unit. And the image to the left is the existing attic plan with the red, which is what is being removed. Moving on to the next sheet, A-2.00. These are the proposed elevations. The elevation in the top left corner, front elevation proposed, shows the existing porch with new pent roof above. We lined up the middle two windows for more of a symmetrical architectural look. The two windows to the right were already there and lined up. We are slightly increasing the size of the windows to meet current egress standards. The image to the right is the right elevation from the right side. Same thing, we're increasing the windows slightly to meet current egress standards. The image on the bottom left is a rendering of what the color scheme will look like. There is no proposed increase in square footage. There is no proposed additions that it will be exceeding the existing footprint. The rendering image shows more of a pure white facade. You know, it's hard to get technology to do what you want sometimes, but the pictures in that packet, the back, is more what it's going to look like with the lime wash or mineral wash. The next sheet, A-2.10, shows the rear elevation. That is the area that we are rebuilding to the existing footprint, just to because we're going to have to take it down to redo the foundation and footing. So that back wall is new, but it's within the existing footprint. The next shot on the right, the left side elevation, just shows it from the left. And that's it.
Hi, Sharon. I'm on a Zoom. Can I call you back? Okay.
Having trouble hearing.
Sarah, do you have some comments to share?
Yes, I think the applicant kind of covered a lot of it. Generally, there's no changes currently proposed to the building's footprint. There's a lot of, what mainly is happening is the rebuilding of the rear wall, repairs, realignment of the windows, and the remainder, for lack of a better term, is kind of cosmetic. Painting of the brick, repairing of the facade, and the addition of that pent roof over the front door. As I said, like, willing to work with the applicant in any on-site design meetings, because based on what I could find, which the property tax records also said this was a brick building, also said it was built in 1949, which I know is incorrect, and that was a 3-unit building, so not the most reliable, but the infill above the windows where what was presumably a porch used to be made it look more like brick than brick veneer, but I could be wrong. And yes, so that being my main concern is ensuring we're treating the brick facade correctly, we're not painting it with the wrong material, and that the whatever changes we're making to the facade with the pent roof, all of that is kind of taken appropriately. But by and large, the project seems to not have a significant impact on the district. By and large, the project, as currently proposed, doesn't appear to have a large impact on the district.
I mean, kind of what we're looking for your feedback on is we would really like to do the lime wash and realign the windows. And we'd like to get your feedback on that so that now, because after this, we'd obviously apply to the zoning board and then it'll be given, referred to you formally for your formal recommendation. So we're really here tonight looking for guidance on that. Oh, okay, we'll give you the conceptual landscaping presentation as well.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Jim Kamalak, Kensho Resources, project engineer. And we did submit a site plan on a survey just showing, as you can see here, the limits of the existing structure, which is not changing. And the main takeaway here is the fact that in the prior photos, you saw that there's absolutely no landscaping, bare foundation, trees that once existed, including street trees that have been removed. Okay, and we provided what we feel is an authentic and will be ultimately a very nice upgrade to that frontage landscaping that'll satisfy several particular things. One, as you can see, we're adding a street tree, one that formerly existed. I believe it was an evergreen previously, but we're going to add a street tree there to replace that. 2 other small trees in the front yard. We'll maintain an existing 600 square foot lawn area that can be used for open space and a play area, for example. We're also providing planting beds, and then with all of this native landscaping, which we have incorporated with pollinators, it also includes foundation plantings that will adequately screen the foundation, and we're sharpening up the walkway from the driveway into that front entry. So there'll be a clear path from the walkway to that front entry. So we feel as though there'll be an aesthetic elevation here from a landscaping standpoint and from a native material standpoint that'll complement the facade treatments that were discussed.
That concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Comments from commission members?
I have a question. So there's an enormous amount of utilities on the front of this building. There's like the gas meters, 3 gas meters, there's like electrical panels, there's huge cables running up and down the sides. There's a whole lot going on there. Is that going to be removed or moved?
Well, I believe the satellite dishes will be removed.
Yeah.
The gas meters are most likely going to stay in the location they're in. We're going to lean on the landscaping to kind of screen those from the street.
Okay.
And make it more sightful. Same thing with the electrical panels. I mean, I don't think we planned on moving any of those utilities.
Where's the electrical panel? Is
Right.
that-
Jason asking for the electric panel.
I believe they're.
Big photo is that.
I believe it's on the one side. I'm not showing it on my photos.
Frida, your questions or thoughts?
Well, just thoughts. That's weird. Just thoughts on the lime washing. I mean, lime washing is a historic treatment, so I don't see any reason for not using it. In fact, I think it'll improve that red brick. And I mean, even though the windows are, very, very visible, I think aligning them makes sense. That's pretty much my opinion on that.
And the lime wash is going to, it's a historical treatment. It's also going to help us kind of hide some imperfections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's important that we, do move forward a mock-up to make sure that
Yes. Yeah.
at some point when we get to that stage, we'd like to do a mock-up to get approved.
Yeah, because you never know how much
Yep.
it'll absorb, so, yeah, makes sense.
Thank you. Shirley?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I may have missed the explanation as to why they didn't keep it a brick. Because this house really doesn't look like the houses in this community. And when you said something about a porch, this is not a porch. Our houses had porches, and there were reasons for those porches for families who went to work and came back to relax before they worked for their family. So I just wanted to know why you couldn't keep the bricks and restore the brick building instead of putting this building up that does not comply with the Witherspoon Jackson community.
Oh, Shirley, it's the same building. We're just lime washing the existing brick.
The other thing is, are the people who will be moving in, are they owners of the house or are they renters?
It'll be 3 apartment units.
Thank you.
So my comments are that it cleans it up. The form of the building is probably its most significant attribute to the street. I think it wasn't a high material, high quality structure, exterior finish to begin with. It was probably on the rebound of whatever the building was lost, either a new investor or someone who had to rebuild something after what happened. So I think it's just a straightforward, honest kind of building that we're trying to straighten up some. I think it's unfortunate that the electric or the gas meters caused that kind of trouble for not having a porch. However, I would also say that this building just didn't have a porch. It just, it would be a nice feature if it could be added, but it's not like we're trying to get back something that had been taken away.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the importance, surely, of the nature of the porches in this neighborhood that's been brought up many, many times over the years. It has a real social component to it. But I don't think it just ever existed on this building, and I think trying to apply one to it, given the challenges, and I think from your opening statement that you did look at that, and I appreciate that. Getting the windows a little more relatable to each other, I guess that's the way to say it, or to get the geometry looking neat. I think it's a plus. I think the shed over the front doors is fine. I don't really see much else to recommend or suggest. I think it's a nice, straightforward project. Commission members, if I'm going on too far and you have a different thought, please say so. So these are just comments and recommendations. We don't take any action. I hope that that's useful.
Very useful.
I think it's always nice to see investment in projects, buildings that may have gotten away from an owner, a new owner trying to do things is good. Sarah, from a staff point of view, is there anything else we need on this? Okay.
No, nothing on my end. It's concept review, so it's your guys' feedback, my feedback, and we wait for the application from there.
Yep.
Great.
Come back and see us.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
All right, thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I just want to say for somebody who lives on Birch Avenue, well done. It's a plus. It is well done, and it is going to replace what during my lifetime is something that I don't think really lends itself to the streetscape at all. So this really is mimicking more of what is now in Birch Avenue, and I don't think you left the history at all. I think you enhanced it. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah, I see that we have a couple other items before the state historic markers, or do you want to go to that and come back? It looks like public comment, staff report, member report.
But, I mean, we have public comment, but I think Kip is the public
I
at
think
this
so,
point.
yeah.
Outside of the design guidelines, I don't have anything additional to report.
All right, we'll come back to that in a minute. Kip, you want to come on up and tell us the stuff you know?
So this shouldn't take very long, I hope. I've got the text for you to review, for the sign,
Mm-hmm.
and Sarah's got some maps to diagrams that came out.
Since this is being recorded, I think you need to get closer to the microphone, just so we can hear you, but for the recording purposes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that what this is?
So a lot of people have been kind of confused about how we even got started on this. The idea was to do something for the 250th, and Elizabeth thought that this would be a really great idea. I don't think that the HPC really focused on it very much. So I was hoping to shovel it off on someone else, but that didn't work. So it's a very simple sign that is used standard, nothing unusual about it. You're allowed 50 characters in the title and 615 in the text. So it's been hard to come up with a blurb that really worked. So the one that we've been using as a base is the one really that David thought was the best one. And then Will had some ideas, and so it's sort of evolved. But the basic idea is that it's got to be under 615 characters, no matter what. Also, the sign is along the Quaker Bridge Road, not at the battlefield per se. So there's got to be something in the sign that indicates to people that you're not at the battlefield. Otherwise, people are going to turn into the towpath parking lot and think they're at the battlefield. So let me just read it really quick, and then I think you can vote on it so that somebody's voted on it anyway. And then Mark Texel maintains the prerogative of still making changes. So we're not the end of the line. So this is a state project. And that's why council's not, it's not necessary for council to get that involved in the weeds. They don't know that much about the battle anyway, and the state is going to be trumping everything. So,
Very good.
you know, this is the best we can do with it, and then the state will do whatever the state is going to do. So, along this road, General George Washington and the Continental Army approached Princeton on January 3rd, 1777. Slipping away from Trenton, Continental forces had marched overnight along freezing back roads to surprise the British garrison at Princeton. Unaware of the approaching army, the British force from Princeton was marching south towards Trenton. No, I just said towards, and rather than saying, I have to look at that again, whether it should be single or toward or towards, leaving only a contingency behind. As fighting broke out, both armies rushed onto the farms of Quaker brothers Thomas and William Clark. While Continental General Hugh Mercer was mortally wounded, the battle was a critical turning point for the Patriots. So that's it. And no, it's not a poem. It's not supposed to be poetical. It's supposed to provide information in as tightly as one can and make it as interesting as one can. So, we wanted to include something in there about the freezing back roads, That was something that kept getting knocked out and put back in because it creates the environment of what that day was like as people are looking at the sign. So the idea is, if you look at your chart, your diagram, if you're coming from, does everybody have a copy? Okay. As you're coming from the big box shopping center and crossing the canal and that little bridge, and then you are going along the canal and making a turn at the towpath park. So first of all, the criteria for this location had to be state-owned property. That was the number one criteria. It couldn't be anything else. And of course, the state had to bless the idea of it, and what the state has final say. So, you know, some people may say, well, why did it happen this way? You know, why wasn't the Princeton Battlefield Society more involved? All these different things. Well, it's just the way it worked because the state was in charge of the program, and if you wanted to participate, you had to apply to the state. The state, incidentally, you know, they gave me a pretty rough time. They wanted a lot of original citations to demonstrate that the Battle of Princeton had happened. And, you know, there's very little original material. So I almost got knocked out of the ballpark because of that. They were not satisfied. Now, you know, the Battle of Princeton was a big thing, and a long time ago. There are a lot of small historic houses and that kind of thing around, and people can document that fairly well. But it's very hard to document the Battle of Princeton. So, and incidentally, I think we paid about $4 million for the property from the Institute. I've been involved now in 2 other acquisitions at Monmouth. We just closed 2 weeks ago on a property in roughly the same size, let's say. $15 million is how much the state had to pay for that.
Wow.
So, you know, this, and, you know, it was nip and tuck as to whether or not we're going to be successful. And what the state does with the property remains to be seen, and I don't know, I'm sure that'll be a matter of great discussion. And when you talk about orchards, for instance, it sounds very nice to put it in an orchard because there are orchards all over the place. But there was no orchard there at the time. Now, later on, in the 1940s, the seller grew up on an orchard that was right there. The seller was actually the owner from the 1940s. And his parents came along and bought the milk farm, and that's what it was at the time, and put an orchard into it. They thought they could make a life that way. And the orchard remnants still remain, and they still have a store there. It's a pie, they sell pies. And so the parents are gone, and Mr. Junko waited until his mother died before he embarked on this thing. I don't think she would have been very happy with him. He never was into the American Revolution. It was just a pain in the butt as a kid. He just didn't respect it at all. And then his parents came up with this idea of selling pies, and his mother came up with special recipes. And so people going along Route 33 to the shore would stop and buy a pie, coming and going. And they're still struggling along. You would think that they would have given up a long time ago and said, well, you know, this business doesn't have any real future, but they're still at it. So, and they're not making a lot of money on this because they gave everything that they were entitled to the brother, Junko, Mr. Junko, the son. And he's the one making the money, not the rest of the family. So that's just a parenthetical comment. So on this chart, you can see where the cars are parked. The towpath is over on the right side there, the east side. And you see this little star, and that's where we propose to put the sign. So as you come around the curve, you will see the sign. If somebody parks right in front of it, you know, there's some jostling about how to avoid that. So it's moved a little bit to the left towards Stony Brook to try to avoid people parking right in front of it. What if there are a lot of weeds growing up around it? Well, it's going to be the responsibility of the state to maintain the sign. but the locals are supposed to report problems. So, you know, if the Battlefield Society sees, you know, it's not being well taken care of, they need to report that, or any vandalism. Now, it would be nice to put a little circle of something around it so people don't actually put the front of their car right in front of it, but that's getting too complicated. So, you know, I think maybe the Garden Society might come along later and say, well, we could make that a little better because those weeds are not very good. And that's what will happen. I'm sure there'll be some weeds. Maybe, you know, gravel. There are no provisions for designing the pad around the marker. And maybe we can prevail upon them. The way this is going to work is, first of all, we have to have some people that are going to take responsibility for getting the sign off the truck. That's not that easy. Nobody wants to take responsibility for that. And then there are people with bad backs and all this kind of stuff. So right now, we don't actually have it figured out totally. We're just saying Parks Maintenance is going to pull it off the truck. Or, you know, sometimes the truck driver will help and sometimes they won't. So it's going to go into some kind of maintenance facility associated with parks. I was hoping to put it in that extra building at the Clark House, but it's full of stuff already. So, but that would be the ideal place for it because that wouldn't be very far away and we kind of keep an eye on it. I hope it doesn't take forever to get the thing installed. That's another thing politically. You know, we're going to have to be after the maintenance folks to get it, and that's Mark Texel and his capabilities, to get it installed. And, you know, some of the parks don't have superintendents. I'm not quite clear on where Washington's Crossing is right now in terms of having a superintendent. You know, Will is it at Princeton Battlefield. There is no superintendent. So, you know, it's very murky as to how to make all this work. And it's going to take, I mean, I don't imagine walking away from it. I imagine, you know, hanging in there until it's actually in the ground. And then I'm hoping that we will have some kind of a celebration the way we did at Battlefield. You know, invite all the muckies and have some speeches and, you know, some refreshments and just say we did a good job and this is wonderful kind of stuff. So I think that'll work out very nicely. And then, you know, the towpath parking lot is taken care of by Parks Maintenance, not very well. And, you know, it's got this kind of ugly guardrail. They did recently restore the bridge over Stony Brook. I doubt if it was really a restoration, but it looks nice. So, you know, that's there. And people can walk on this little pathway from the towpath parking lot to the Stony Brook and look over the bridge and into the water. So that's
very nice.
That's pretty much it. And it's very simple and straightforward. And it's just a matter of, you know, keeping the pressure up to make sure this thing gets
Well, I
totally
think you've been doing a
finished.
good job of that, and I appreciate it. I think the way you've got it edited right now, it reads beautifully. It's evocative of the day. You get a real picture of what's going on, and you got within the word count or the letter count, which is not easy. Thank you.
Well, the state has 7 signs that they're responsible for. Anybody could apply for a sign. So, you know, HPC applied for the sign. The state did not apply for the sign. The council did not apply for the sign. That was something that HPC did, and I think it was fully within the responsibilities and authority of the HPC to make that application. And then, so now, you know, we're kind of in a stack because the state said, well, since, you know, you have to have our okay because it's on state property, and we're going to have to work it out with maintenance, we'll kind of take it over and add it to our list. So they have a gal now in charge of the list. So, you know, I'm trying not to get buried in that thing because I want to make sure that we get this thing done and have a nice 250th acknowledgement next year. So, so that's the whole deal.
Very good.
And then maybe, Sarah, could you pass this around? This is that's what the the exhibit looks like. And it was at the library, and Leighton, I think, was very concerned that, oh, gee, the library is, got something going on, and we'll be behind because we're not doing ours until next year. But I don't know what was going on with the library, but they stuck it in a corner. It wasn't really noticeable. It wasn't pleasant to go through it from my point of view. And it's a rather odd exhibit because each panel is a little bio, but it's on people that are not commonly known. And it's not as though there's a little bio like Hugh Mercer or, some of the famous people that kids could learn more about. These are on fairly unknown people. Now, that's not to say that they shouldn't be known. I mean, they made a contribution at the time, and some of them were slaves, which is pretty exciting. But their names weren't known. And I didn't find, when I went through the panels, that they took it in, really. It wasn't that meaningful to me for some reason.
Which
So-
means it would be just.
But
you
it
have
is
to
what
work
it
at
is,
Yeah.
So I think that to add to that, if we had some handouts, which the library didn't have some handouts on people from Princeton who were involved in the Battle of Princeton, who are names, including Orange, who was an African-American in the battle, and there are several African-Americans in the battle. So I think we could have at least one handout on either on each one. If we don't have enough material, then we could have one that clusters them together. And I think I could handle doing those handouts, Leighton, but they would be on people rather than places. So, they're not intended to be a map or, explain the battle. That's for the battlefield to do. This is just a sort of an augmentation to try to get a little spirit going in the community, and there isn't much spirit on the 250th, and it's not just in Princeton, it's everywhere.
I was going to say
Unfortunately.
that it's a very different event from the 200th that you and I remember, and I was hoping it would actually trigger more interest in history and more interest in historic preservation as it did 50 years ago. But it's not to say that it's completely lost and that Princeton has another chance to.
And it's up to us.
Yep.
And we can give this good promotion. I've done a lot of promotion over time, so I could certainly, and I think we should approach the schools and see if they can't get groups of kids over. Now, one of the logistics is, are we going to have a host there when people go through? How to handle that, and I'd like to get the mayor's opinion about, what he might envision. And we have to lay it out, and we have to put it up ourselves. So I'm a little concerned about that because I'm not, it arrives in a big truck, and you have to kind of put it up, and you don't know what it's going to be like from the last person who used it. So, I have to discuss that a little bit. That brochure, we only have that one. Yeah. We don't have, and I'm going to ask them, is there a stack we could put in the library? Which would be a little bit odd since they had their own show at one point, but they really didn't make a lot of it. They didn't tie it into a lecture, which we could do. We could have a lecture right here in the community room if we wanted to. We could have Will, maybe. I've already asked Will to do something in Pennsylvania. He hasn't acted overly enthused, but, that's a possibility. And then there's a film that was shown at Morven a couple of years ago of the African-American community and how they gathered around and learned more about the participation of that community in the battle or in Princeton life. And we could show that film at some point. I think that might be a nice thing to do. So, we can use it as a programming focus and do other things around it, but that's the stuff we have to discuss with the mayor and the building maintenance, because I don't know how they handle opening the building when it's not usually open, and, all those kinds of little things have to be figured out. But we have plenty of time.
Yeah. So maybe to wrap it up, what we could do is
I think Leighton had something to add real quick.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Leighton, have you got some comments?
Yeah, I've got some comments. Yeah, I think, Kip, this is a great idea, especially the marker. You mentioned that this exhibit has been shown and was at the library. I think you also said you didn't rank high where they placed it at and how much attention they paid to it. But I think before we get too far down the road with a establishing and another exhibit, bringing it back, I think that's something that really should come before mayor and council.
Yeah, I would
want
be
the
glad to give them a
HPC
presentation. Again, I don't think they've been overly enthused about the 250th. I understand that Michelle now is coordinating that, which I didn't know about before. So, I certainly will do that, and I need the cooperation of the building maintenance person, whoever's in charge of this building, to work with them on that. So, those are all things.
I think one of the points is that, we have, like you mentioned, Morven. We just had a presentation from Princeton Battlefield.
Right.
The library showed the exhibit. I think the real question is it the municipality's responsibility to really lean into the 250th more than what we've already done? And then I'll just go a little bit further and say this. For African Americans, we know the importance of African Americans and Native American Indians who fought in the Revolution, in the war, right here in Princeton. But we just heard from 4 gentlemen who sat up here for almost an hour, said nothing about African Americans.
Right.
I'm glad you did mention it. But from my personal perspective and what I know is that right now, the 250th, I think back to what is a slave, what to the slave is the 4th of July, the famous Frederick Douglass speech. And right now, most people of color are not feeling very happy about where we are 250 years later.
I know.
So, you want to give that some thought, but I would, invite you to come before mayor and council and present rather than be here and making the assumption that we are ready and willing and able and really excited about the exhibit.
Yeah, I'll do that. And, I think tying it in with a marker also is another thing that's nice for the community. As people drive in on Quaker Bridge Road, they will see that sign. Many people who don't really know where the battlefield is, don't know what happened there. And, it's an evolving community. We have new people moving in, people moving out. There's, always an evolution. The kids in school are interested at certain times and then not so much other times. I think 4th grade is when we got our history lessons about New Jersey history. I'll have to coordinate with the school system and see what they want to do. So I think it's a possibility of getting some excitement about this going. But I agree with you. I think that we're all kind of down in the dumps right now and worried. Maybe after the November election, we'll feel a little better, I hope. And then, we'll keep going because we have to.
Sarah, does this present? Are we required to do a vote on the? What is it we need to be doing business-wise? Is what we're trying to figure out up here.
I don't think this was like a formal application to my knowledge. I think what Kip is looking for is, I guess, an informal vote in our feedback. If the HPC approves this text, I don't think it needs to be like a roll call vote.
Okay, so we can say that the consensus was, if I'm speaking for everybody, that we like the text the way it is.
Yeah, can we vote on that? Because then I can tell the state, well,
Yes.
HPC
Okay.
voted on it.
All right.
Okay.
Then if you need that,
I move that we approve the text as written.
Thank you.
Second.
All in
thank you,
favor?
Shirley.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Shirley.
Yes, I also want to say, when I told you that how much of an advocate Kip is, I didn't know she was there. Now you hear she is. And she also was one of the persons who met to make this a 20th Historic District. So thank you very much for that, Kip. Also, I work with the committees for Morven Museum and also the cemetery. I'm on the board of the cemetery of Nassau Presbyterian Church, and I always give the history of African Americans and Native Americans, and we do talk about the slaves and those who worked for the Revolutionary War. That's it.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thanks, Shirley.
So this is all in favor, say aye, or is this a roll call?
All in favor, say aye.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
And may I also say thank you to the council, I mean, not the council, the Historic Preservation Commission, because when I brought this up about this being a 20th Historic District, you gave us so much backbone. And I want to thank those of you who were on the Presbyterian, oh God, I can't, this is part of my, all of you who were on the commission who helped make this a 20th Historic District, I want to thank you also.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you for understanding why I can't talk.
That's okay.
Thank you all.
All right. I lost it. Staff report. Anything more to report? Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, Shirley. You're a trooper. Welcome back.
And thank you all, and thank you for being with me through this journey.